Ciao a tutti e benvenuti al tavolo Italiano. Welcome to the 13th installment of Tips on Studying Italian. In this video, we're going to discuss what I call incorporation of the study lifestyle. I often find with most students the biggest dilemma of the vast majority of us that would like to learn Italian is just the time. We just can't afford to give up our lives for the sake of studying Italian, as tempting as that may be at times. Most of us anyway, have families, jobs, perhaps school, college. We're just busy taking care of our houses and cars, and we have social life, so many other things in our life that we don't need to neglect, yet we strive to find time to study Italian. Let's face it, without putting time in, you're just not going to learn. It takes time to get a language. You have to be able to absorb it. You have to be able to immerse yourself into it to some degree. In order to really begin to get the language, you have to spend time in it. So how do we do that? How do we make enough time to study and or practice Italian if our passion is to really get a good grasp on this language? Now, of course, the amount of time, the amount of effort, the amount of study you may want to choose to put in should also be proportionate to what your goal is. If your goal is merely to learn how to be able to order dinner, for instance, or say a few phrases, obviously you're not going to need as much time. But if you've fallen in love with this beautiful language and you really want to come close to, being conversational, perhaps not fluent, but able to hold your own when you go to Italy next time, or if you get to go to Italy, or talking to Italians here in the States. If you really want to be able to speak Italian semi-confidently, you're going to have to spend some time. So how do we go about finding that time? Well, what I intend to propose to you today are simply some ideas that have worked for myself or for others that I know. Each of our lives are different, and therefore there'll be different ways of incorporating study into your lifestyle. First, let me define what I mean by incorporating it into your lifestyle. Obviously, there's going to be some time that's going to have to be set aside for just studying Italian in one way or another that doesn't really accomplish something that you're already doing in life. If you're going to learn, it's going to take some study at some point in time or another, okay? But most of us can't devote hours a day to that, nor would we want to. It'd be kind of dry. So what are some other ways that we can avail ourselves to the Italian language without having to give up what we already do in life anyway? That is what I tend to propose today. I hope to show you some ideas that may not be exactly perfect for you, but maybe they will spark ideas about how you can incorporate Italian into your lifestyle, how you can make it work for you. So what I really want to do here is to spark your imagination. There might be one or two or three, maybe more ideas that you can incorporate into your lifestyle. But what I'm really looking to do is to get that thought process going in your mind, how you can bring Italian into your life. Okay, so number one on the list we've already covered. That's routine study time. It all really boils down to what you want to accomplish, how serious you are, and what kind of a commitment you're willing to make. I've had a lot of people ask me, Chuck, how much do I have to study to learn Italian? Loaded question, okay? First of all, it's going to be different for everybody. But the real question is what do you want to get out of it? Because the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. If you really want to get a lot out of it, then put in as much as you can, or as much as is comfortable for you. Okay, but if you really have a goal, an end goal of learning Italian, if that's a passion in the back of your mind, don't let it get swept under the rug by not putting in any study time. And I would rather see someone study 15 minutes a day than to try to cram 3 hours into one day. Because learning a language is a little bit like learning an instrument. It's better to get a little bit a day. Now, I would rather see you do more than 15 minutes a day. But what I'm saying is, I think making it daily is more important than trying to cram in one day. Okay, here's some other ideas that I've had. Some I've incorporated in my life, some I've observed in others. One is making a shopping list in Italian. And then, without the English translation, it's simply going to help you with your vocabulary, okay? So you make a shopping list, then you go to the store with no English on it, and see if you can buy everything on that shopping list. Another one is sticky notes. I knew a lady in Charleston, South Carolina, that as she started to learn Italian, as she learned the word for something in her house, didn't matter what it was, large or small, she would take a sticky note and write that Italian word and tack it to it. She'd put it on the side of her refrigerator, on paintings, on walls, on chairs. She had sticky notes all over the place, but her vocabulary grew rather quickly when it came to items that were found around the house. Here's one that I like to spend just a little bit of time on because I think everybody can incorporate it, and that's talking to yourself in Italian. Okay, it may sound a little strange, but I'm telling you, it is really, really good practice, and it allows you to build more than just vocabulary. In fact, it's a good way to figure out what vocabulary you need to build. Now, I don't suggest that you do this in the office when everybody's around, or in crowded public places, okay? But there's a lot of times when we're by ourselves, whether it's in our home, in our car, in the shower, whatever. There's a lot of times we're by ourselves. And so, I'll be honest, what I like to do personally is kind of imagine a scene. It might be an argument, it might be a conversation, it might be a transaction, okay? So, where I'm actually talking for two people. Per esempio, che fai? Che fai? Vuoi dire che fai? Che fai? Sto mangiando qualche whatever, just go on and on and on and on and on from there. And, just see what you can do. Now, if you're trying to converse with yourself in Italian, and you come across a word that you don't know, that's a great time to pull out that little notepad and write down, not if you're driving, of course, but make a mental note of it to write down later, this is a word I want to learn, because I want to learn how to express myself in that way. Also, if you're in a shower or whatever, if you know you're totally by yourself, it's a great chance to try to put emotion with what you're saying. Perché mi hai detto che io sono stupido? Or whatever. You can do all kinds of things. Have fun with it. Just play around with it. Try to sound Italian to yourself. Try to put some emotion into it. Work on your pronunciation. Just have a good time with it. Anything like that will help you familiarize yourself. And you know what? If you're going to make mistakes, so what, right? Don't worry so much about that. Apply what you're learning in your study time. Don't intentionally just go willy-nilly and don't care about what you do, but don't let mistakes hold you back. Try talking to yourself in Italian. It's a perfect time, right? It's not like you're going to be embarrassed in front of yourself, okay? And, and as you learn new things, apply those to the conversations that you have with yourself. Okay, other opportunities. Some other things you can do when you're driving is you can listen to Italian music, for instance. I have a huge selection of, I prefer CDs, I'm old-fashioned, okay? There are MP3s out there, but I love listening to Italian music. Kind of listen to the songs, listen to the words. Don't focus so hard you're not focusing on your driving, but just avail yourself to the beauty of the Italian language that way. Italian movies, there are some very, very good Italian movies out there. Um, you can get them both, with the English at the bottom and or not. And even if you get it with the subtitles, you don't have to turn them on, right? Maybe watch them a few times with the subtitles and a few times without, and see how you do. But what I would encourage you to do if you get a movie is just watch the movie first one time without really trying to understand everything, just to enjoy the movie for the sake of the movie, right? Another thing is playing music. I actually had one of my Skype students the other day say that he was going to write a song about something that we were studying. He plays guitar. And that helps him to remember things. So he actually wrote himself a little ditty. I'm assuming he did. He said he was going to. And he started playing that on guitar, so it would help him learn. Games. Scrabble in Italian. Other games. If you know someone else that's learning the language, it's a great interactive way to incorporate. It gives you something to do with someone else where you have fun and play a game and include Italian in there with it. Writing. I strongly recommend an Italian pen pal. Now the way that I did with my pen pals typically is they would write me in English. I would respond to them. I would write back in English. I would correct their English and then I would write back in Italian. They would respond, they would correct my Italian and then write back in English, and we would go back and forth like that. Learned a lot that way. That's a great way to hone in your Italian grammar skills. Italian TV. Now you may not be able to get it with your service provider, but you can watch Italian TV online. One of my favorite shows is Medical and Familia. So if you have some TV time, try checking out an Italian series. You may find something that you really, really like. And once again, you're just exposing yourself to more Italian. Any commitments that require any kind of reading or verbalization that you can do in Italian is a great idea, because now you're killing two birds with one stone. Myself, I'm a Christian, and to me, devotion time it should be important. I gotta confess it's not. I don't always put the emphasis on it that I should, but as a Christian, devotion time is an important thing that I need to incorporate in my life. So I decided at one point in time that I was going to try to pray in Italian as opposed to in English, which was a very, at first, challenging kind of a thing for me, but it was a great experience. Because when I couldn't think of the words for something that I wanted to say right away, in Italian, what I did instead was I rephrased it in such a way. I remember one time on a business trip, I was actually semi-lost in New Jersey, not exactly, but I didn't know exactly how to get to this office. But I didn't know the word for find. So I ended up praying. I said, Papa Dio, per favore, portami a questo ufficio, which was, Father God, please take me to this office, because I needed to get there for an appointment. Oh, and yes, by the way, he did. This is also, though, another reason why it's a great idea to get involved in an Italian meetup group or some kind of an Italian language group where you can practice speaking with others, which is always, always, always a good idea. Now, once again, these are just ideas. And I'm sure they don't even begin to cover all the possibilities, nor would all of them apply for your life. But these are ideas that work for me. Many of them work for me. I hope that maybe as I went through these ideas, maybe you got some ideas of your own that you can incorporate into your life and make your life more of a study of Italian instead of just 15, 20, 30 minutes a day. So the final question here is this really necessary? Do you really need to do this? Once it really comes down to it, it just depends on what you want out of it, right? I did some research on the internet, and there's a theory out there that says if you want to master a language, if you really want to master a language like your mother tongue, that you need to spend 10,000 hours exposed to that language. I'm like, really? 10,000 hours? Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, how many of you out there took 2, 3, 4, even 5 years of the language in college, um, and can't speak any of it now? I took 5 years of French, and I'm just now learning French over again. There are a few things coming back to me, but very, very few. So while I do agree that you have to spend a lot of time eventually over a period of years, because those of us have lives, obviously we can't just quit our jobs and move to Italy for 3 years. I think that we need to be creative on how we can bring time in, and then, like I said, over a period of years, those hours build up. For me, for example, someone asked me the other day how long I've been studying Italian. I really haven't thought about it. I've been studying Italian for 7 years. E adesso io non sono fluente, il mio italiano non è perfetto, ma posso comunicare abbastanza bene con tutti I miei amici italiani. So while I'm not fluent, my Italian's not perfect, I can now hold a sustainable conversation. I can converse well enough. I can understand my Italian friends. They can understand me. I can get around Italy. I'm still studying. I still want to improve. I still want to be fluent one day. I get complimented on my Italian, although I think they're probably, it's more out of their kindness than my ability. But you can get there too. And I'll be honest, I don't study hours upon hours a day. I just work it into my lifestyle at a comfortable pace. And I don't get in a hurry, as we talked about towards the beginning of this series. And after a while, it'll accumulate. But if you don't put anything else into it, if you just expect us to do a class a week or an hour here or there, even though I don't necessarily agree with the 10,000 hour rule, here are some scenarios of how much time you'll end up putting into it. 1 3-hour adult education course for 8 weeks. So after 2 months, you'll have 24 hours. 1 year of a language learning school, 4 hours per week, times 12 weeks, times 2 semesters. It's a little less than 100 hours. I mean, so do the math. At that rate, 10,000 hours is 100 years away. Okay, scenario 3, 1 year of consistent dedicated self-study or homework at 1 hour a day. Now, that's not just study time, but that may be 15 minutes of study, 15 minutes of music, because remember, this is 10,000 hours of any kind of exposure, right? So, if you watch an hour sitcom, there's an hour, all right? So 1 year of consistent dedicated self-study or homework at 1 hour per day, 365 hours a year. Scenario 4, 1 year total immersion in a new language, assuming that in a 24 hours a day, we allow 8 hours a day for sleeping per day, 16 hours a day every day of the year. That's 5,840 hours. Thus, you can expect that these scenarios would make somebody an expert with study in the following time. Scenario 1, 208 years, you'd become fluent. That's the adult class. Scenario 2, foreign language studies at a school, 104 years to become fluent. Scenario 3, dedicated self-study, an hour a day, every day, of some kind of Italian. That would be 27 years. Scenario 4, total immersion, approximately 2 years. Now, this can seem extreme and actually depressing, but I'm actually looking at it like this, I worked the dedicated self-study program, right? I really started studying about 7, 8 years ago, as I said. Based on that, I expect to be fluent in another 4 or 5 years, based on where I'm at today. Don't get me wrong, I can hold a pretty good conversation, but not like I want to be. So what that means is I actually believe that if you have an overwhelming desire to speak the language and you're willing to work at it, I think that you can actually cut your time in half because the time becomes a more quality time. So some may say 13 years is ridiculous, but you know, what's the hurry? 13 years is good. So, in a nutshell, that's where it's at. Before I go, I do want to share with you one final thing that I've added to my rapport for exposing myself in Italian, and that is my handy little iPhone. I found out Siri is actually Italian at heart. Observe. Siri.
Ogni tuo desiderio è un ordine.
Siri, dove posso comprare la benzina?
Ok, ecco cosa ho trovato.
So not only do I get to practice speaking Italian, but I get to practice understanding it too from something that's right here. So anytime I need directions or anything else I would have used my iPhone for, it can now be part of my incorporated study lifestyle. So I really hope that this video helped you. We still have a couple more to do for this series, meaning Dare to Dream and Planning Your Adventure. So until the next video, ciao. And remember, if you really want to learn this language, parlare italiano.